The lost records. The grand hall of the Galactic Empire was silent. Rows of glowing data crystals lined the walls, each crystal holding the history of 1,000 worlds, every war, every treaty, every species ever recorded by the Empire's endless archives. And yet on this day the archivist stood frozen in disbelief. High Chancellor Vareth leaned forward, his scaled fingers gripping the edge of the table. "Search again," he demanded, his voice cold and sharp. "There must be something." The Chief Archivist bowed low, his skin pale under the golden light. "We have searched every record, Chancellor. There is nothing in our archives about these humans." The council chamber stirred uneasily, whispers filling the air. No record, no history, not even a passing note in forgotten files. It was impossible. Every species, even those that lived and died before the Empire rose, had at least a mention in the Great Archive. But here, for the word human, there was only emptiness. Admiral Zyros slammed his fist onto the table, his armor rattling from the force. "Then where did those ships come from?" he growled. "Our scouts report entire fleets moving like shadows, destroying invaders with precision strikes? And you tell me we have no knowledge of their origin?" The room grew heavy with fear. Even the strongest voices could not deny the truth. Fleets were vanishing, not just enemy fleets, but even Imperial scouts sent to investigate. All that returned were fragments of recordings, static-filled images, of black warships moving like ghosts across the stars. Some called them illusions. Others claimed they were advanced machines built by rival empires. But the truth was more frightening. No one could prove where they came from. The Chancellor rose, his tall figure towering over the table. His golden eyes flickered as he spoke. "If they are not in our records, then they do not exist," he declared. "This is some trick by our enemies to spread fear." But even as he spoke, his voice lacked confidence. The council could feel it. This was no ordinary enemy. This was something beyond their knowledge. In the far corner of the chamber, an old scholar whispered words that made the air colder. "There is a myth," he said, "one not written in your archives, but carried in the songs of dying worlds. They speak of a species born on a world of storms and fire, a death world, a species that vanished from the maps long ago." The council turned to him with disbelief. "What proof do you have, old one?" one asked. The scholar lowered his head. "None. Only whispers. They called them humans." The name spread through the chamber like fire. Some laughed, others looked pale, for to speak of myths in the grand hall was a crime. Yet no one stopped him, because the name itself felt heavy, dangerous, alive. Far beyond the capital, on the Empire's border, the mystery deepened. Patrol ships reported strange readings, shadows larger than any cruiser moving just beyond sensor range. One ship swore they saw weapons fire from nowhere, brilliant streaks of light cutting through an enemy fleet before vanishing again. When the patrol returned, their recording showed something that froze even the bravest soldiers. A fleet, massive, silent, cloaked in darkness, each ship shaped like a blade cutting across the void. They bore no symbols, no Empire colors, no alien marks. They were shadows of warships, ancient and deadly. The recording ended with static. The crew said nothing, their faces pale, their voices trembling. They only whispered one thing: "Ghosts." Back in the council chamber, the debate raged. "They cannot be real," one lord shouted. "If they were real, they would be in our records." But another snapped back, "And yet fleets vanish. Do the records save us now?" The Chancellor struck his staff to silence them. The sound echoed like thunder. "We will not bow to myths," he said. "We will uncover the truth and crush whoever dares mock the Empire." But deep inside, doubt grew, for the Empire was built on control, on knowledge, on records that never lied. And now, for the first time in millennia, they faced something their records could not explain. That night, in the shadows of the hall, the old scholar spoke again to himself. "The records are silent because the humans never wanted to be remembered," he whispered. "They wanted to be forgotten until the time came for their return." Outside the great halls, the galaxy trembled with rumors. Merchants swore they saw dark ships drifting near trade routes. Warlords whispered of entire fleets. Erased without warning, ordinary citizens told tales of glowing eyes in the void, waiting, watching. The Empire tried to silence these voices, tried to erase the fear, but fear spreads faster than truth. And soon, across every world under their rule, the same words were whispered in the dark. The ghosts have returned, and, with every whisper, the galaxy grew closer to learning a truth their records could never hide, a truth that would change the balance of power forever. The first contact with shadows. The border world of Chiron was nothing special, a barren planet with a single mining colony, defended by a small imperial garrison. Most of the galaxy had forgotten about it, but that night, it became the center of fear. The alarms screamed across the colony as enemy ships dropped out of warp. Sleek destroyers of the Zaith Armada filled the sky, black hulls glowing with crimson light. Their goal was simple, to take the mines, crush the garrison, and claim the system as their own. Colonel Draven of the Empire barked orders to his soldiers. Hold the line, buy time for reinforcements. His voice was steady, but his heart shook. The enemy outnumbered them 10-1. The garrison's ships were old, their weapons weak. This was not a battle. It was a slaughter waiting to happen. The first wave of enemy fire slammed into the Imperial. Defenses, explosions lighting up the sky. The colony trembled as shields flickered and collapsed. Within minutes, half of the garrison fleet was reduced to burning wrecks drifting above the planet. The miners screamed as they watched the sky fall. Families huddled in shelters, praying. The Empire would save them. But in their hearts, they knew the truth. The Empire had abandoned the Edge Worlds long ago. And then, something strange happened. A ripple spread across the void. Like a shadow moving against the stars, the enemy's scanners flickered, their instruments failing. Pilots shouted in confusion as unknown signals flooded their screens. Colonel Draven looked up at the black sky and felt his blood run cold. Dozens of shapes emerged, silent and sharp. Warships larger than any the Empire had ever built. Their hulls reflected no light. Their movement so smooth it seemed the stars themselves bent around them. One Zaith captain sneered. "Imperial tricks," he spat. But before his words could finish, a beam of white fire cut through his ship, splitting it in half like paper. Panic spread among the invaders. The ghost fleet moved without sound. No radio chatter, no warnings. They appeared, fired, and vanished again, like predators striking from the dark. The Empire soldiers watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. Before their eyes, enemy destroyers exploded one by one. Entire squadrons vanished into burning clouds. And yet, not a single ghost ship was hit in return. Draven whispered the word. No soldier of the Empire dared to speak. Humans, the miners inside the shelters, felt the ground rumble as wreckage fell from the skies. For the first time in their lives, they were saved not by the Empire, but by shadows no one understood. The battle was over in minutes. The mighty Zaith Armada, feared across the galaxy, was gone. Nothing but twisted wrecks and drifting corpses remained. And then, silence. The ghost fleet did not land, did not speak. They did not answer distress calls. They simply hovered for a moment, their black hulls reflecting the dying fires of battle. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they vanished into the void, leaving nothing but fear behind. Colonel Draven stood among the ruins of his command post, his eyes wide. "They weren't helping us," he muttered. "They weren't helping anyone. They were only sending a message." In the council chambers light years away, the report arrived. The admirals read it with disbelief. "Entire armada destroyed in less than 10 minutes, one whispered. "Impossible." Another slammed the datapad shut. Ghost stories, lies meant to weaken us. But the holo recording played regardless, showing black ships gliding across the stars like shadows of death. Every admiral in the room felt their hearts grow heavy, because deep inside they knew this was real. The Chancellor's face darkened. "Find them," he ordered. "If they are real, we will drag them into the light and break them." But the old scholar in the corner only shook his head. "You cannot break what does not wish to be seen," he said. The ghosts do not fight for power. They fight for memory. They fight for something greater than the Empire. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Traders carried tales of fleets that appeared and disappeared. Warbands told stories of battles ended before they began. Children in the slums whispered of glowing eyes in the dark sky. Everywhere, the same question grew louder. Who are they? And in the silence of deep space, the ghost fleet drifted, waiting for their next strike, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. The Empire had faced enemies before, but this was different. This was not a war for territory or wealth. This was the return of something the galaxy had long forgotten, the return of humanity. The Council in panic. The council chamber of the Galactic Empire had never been so loud. Voices clashed against one another, echoing under the high crystal ceiling. Some shouted for war, some demanded silence, but all carried the same feeling. Fear, Admiral. Zyro stood at the center, his armor shining under the golden lights. His voice was sharp. You have seen the reports, entire fleets vanish, entire armadas reduced to ash. These shadows strike without warning and vanish without trace, and now, you tell me they are not real? A senator hissed back. They are tricks, holograms perhaps created by our enemies to make us weak. Another shouted. Impossible. No fleet could destroy the Zaith Armada in minutes. The hollow recording of Chiron's battle flickered above. Them, black ships moved like ghosts, tearing through the enemy. Not a single sound, not a single word. Just destruction, pure and perfect. The image froze on a burning wreck drifting in the void, and the chamber grew quiet. High Chancellor Vareth leaned forward, his scaled face tense. If these ships are real, then why are they not in our archives? He asked. Our records stretch back thousands of years. Every race, every war, every ship ever known is written. But for these humans, there is nothing. The chief archivist bowed low, his hands shaking. The records are empty, Chancellor. It is as if they were erased, not forgotten, but wiped away. Gasps filled the chamber. A few senators laughed nervously, but no one truly believed their laughter. For the idea of something so powerful, so dangerous, yet unseen by the Empire was a nightmare. Then the old scholar stepped forward again, his robes tattered, his voice soft but heavy. I warned you, he said. The songs of dying worlds spoke of them. A people born of fire and storm, a death world species, humanity. Enough with myths, the Chancellor snapped. We rule with truth, not with ghost stories. But even as he spoke, his golden eyes flickered with doubt. The scholar raised a trembling hand toward the hollow recording. Look at how they move. Look at how they fight. No council fleet fights like this. No alien armada moves with such precision. These are not illusions. These are warriors who trained in silence, waiting, preparing. The chamber fell quiet again. Each word carried weight. Each pause felt like a hammer striking their pride. Then a new report arrived. A messenger stormed into the chamber, his armor cracked and his face pale. He dropped to one knee. Another fleet, my lords. The Yith coalition sent 20 destroyers into the dead zone near Sol. None have returned. Only static echoes remain. And a single message was broadcast before they vanished. The chamber leaned forward, holding its breath. What message? Vareth demanded. The messenger swallowed hard. It was only one sentence, spoken in a tongue our translators could barely catch. It said, "We are the forgotten." The room froze. No one moved. No one spoke. The words seemed to hang in the air like blades pressing against their throats. Panic spread quickly. Some senators demanded peace. Others demanded war, admirals argued. Fists slammed against tables. One cried, "If they are real, they must be found and destroyed before they destroy us all." Another snapped, "If they can erase entire fleets, what chance do we have?" The Chancellor struck his staff against the floor. The sound echoed like thunder. "Silence!" he roared. "We are the Empire. We do not bow to phantoms. We will find them, and we will end this." But deep inside, even he felt the weight of fear. The Empire was mighty, but its might was built on knowledge, on records, on the belief that nothing was unknown. Now, for the first time in 1,000 years, they faced an enemy their records could not explain. After the meeting, Whispers filled the halls. Senators spoke in hushed tones of ghost fleets and forgotten wars. Admirals exchanged grim looks. For the first time, unity was gone, and fear ruled the heart of the empire. The scholar, standing alone at the far end of the chamber, whispered words no one dared repeat. The ghosts have returned, not to conquer but to remind. The galaxy has forgotten humanity, but humanity has not forgotten the galaxy. Far away, in the cold silence of space, the ghost fleet drifted once more, its ships cloaked in shadows, its guns silent but ready. No banners, no symbols, only the silent oath of warriors waiting for the moment to strike again. The Empire believed it ruled the stars, but the stars now whispered a different truth, a truth that echoed louder each day. The records are empty because humanity chose it so, and when they return nothing will stand against them. And so the galaxy trembled, not at the sight of battle, but at the silence before it. The Ghost Fleet revealed. The ruined battlefield of the Yith coalition drifted in silence. Broken ships floated like dead giants, flames still glowing in the vacuum. What little survived was carried on the black box of a single scout drone, trembling. As it recorded shadows moving across the void, the recording reached the council in less than a day. The chamber was full again, the air heavy with dread. The hollow image flickered alive. At first, only wreckage filled the screen. Then from the darkness, massive shapes emerged. They were unlike any known warships. Their hulls were sharp, jagged like blades forged for war. The metal was dark, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Their size was staggering, larger than dreadnoughts, yet moving with the silence of hunters. Gasps filled the chamber. No empire builds ships like these, whispered one senator. Not even the Korth, not even the Veyron. An admiral leaned closer to the image, his face pale. Look at their formation, he muttered. They move as if they share one mind, every strike, every turn perfectly timed. The image zoomed closer. Symbols etched along the hull flickered into view. Old, faded, almost erased by time. But one word, one symbol, burned clear enough for the council to see. EARTH. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted it was a trick. Others whispered the forbidden name humanity. The old scholar raised his hand, his voice soft but certain. You see now, he said. These are not illusions. These are relics of a people the galaxy tried to erase, ships built in silence, hidden in the dark, waiting for the time of return. High Chancellor Vareth slammed his staff. If they are real, they are dangerous, he growled. The Empire cannot allow such power to exist outside its control. But the fear had already spread. Across the galaxy, rumors raced faster than light. Traders swore they saw ghost ships. Near forgotten lanes, soldiers whispered that whole armies had vanished before even firing a shot. Entire worlds began to question whether the Empire was still the strongest force in the stars. And then, a new transmission arrived. This time, it was not static, not fragments, but a voice. A deep, calm voice that spoke in a language no one had heard in centuries. Yet somehow, everyone understood. We are the forgotten, it said. We are the children of Earth. You tried to erase us, but shadows cannot be erased. We rise now, not as conquerors, but as reminders. The galaxy will remember what it chose to forget. The chamber froze. No one dared speak. For the first time, the enemy had a voice. For the first time, the ghosts were no longer silent. Admiral Zyros clenched his fists. They mock us, he growled. They hide in shadows and speak in riddles. Enough. We will hunt them. We will crush them before the galaxy bows to fear. But the scholar shook his head. You cannot hunt shadows. They choose where and when to be seen. And now they have chosen. Outside the Empire's reach, in the dark corners of the galaxy, the Ghost Fleet gathered. Thousands of ships, old yet powerful. Engines burning with strange energy no alien could recognize. They drifted in silence, their crews unseen, their faces hidden. Legends spread that these ships carried humans in flesh. Others swore they were piloted by machines with human minds. No one knew the truth. No one dared approach. All who tried never returned. But one truth became clear. The galaxy could no longer deny their existence. Humanity was not a myth, not a rumor, not a ghost. Humanity was real, and humanity had returned. In the streets of the capital, children whispered new songs. In the markets, traders spoke with trembling voices. On distant war fronts, even hardened generals felt their hearts grow weak. The empire stood proud, but its pride cracked with every whisper of the word. Earth, the Chancellor tried to rally the council with words of strength. He promised new fleets, stronger weapons, endless war to prove the empire's power. But deep inside, even he felt it, a truth heavier than any weapon. The records were empty because humanity wanted them empty. Humanity had erased themselves from the pages of history. And now, when the galaxy had grown arrogant, they returned like a storm. The Ghost Fleet was no longer just a rumor. It was the truth. The galaxy would never be the same again. The enemy breaks. The galaxy had seen wars before, empires rising and falling, fleets clashing in endless fire. But nothing had prepared them for this. Not the Zaith Armada, not the Veyron Dominion, not even the Korth war tribes. When the Ghost Fleet appeared again, it was no accident. A coalition of alien powers had gathered. 20 empires, sworn enemies for centuries, now united under one desperate banner. They had only one goal: prove the Ghost Fleet was mortal. The battlefield was chosen at Vera's Rift, a storm of shattered stars and burning asteroids. Thousands of ships dropped from warp, filling the void with endless firepower. Banners of 20 empires glowed in the darkness. Weapons charged. Voices of commanders filled the air. They believed numbers would give them strength. They believed together they could crush the shadows. At first, it seemed their courage was real. Waves of destroyers surged forward. Carriers launched endless. Swarms of fighters. The void lit up with missiles and beams. The storm of war burned bright. But then, silence. From the shadows of the rift, they came. Black shapes sliding out of the void like hunters emerging from deep water. The Ghost Fleet. They did not rush. They did not shout. They did not waste a single movement. Their ships glided into formation. Dark blades cutting across the field. Engines burning with silent fury. The first strike was like lightning. Beams of white fire tore through the front line. Carriers exploded in blinding light. Fighters burned to dust before they even reached their targets. The coalition's proud destroyers crumbled in seconds. Panic spread across the armada. Commanders screamed for retreat, but retreat was impossible. The Ghost Fleet surrounded them like wolves circling prey. Every turn, every jump was blocked. Admiral Zorith of the Veyron tried to rally his fleet. "Hold your ground," he shouted. "They bleed like us." But even as his words rang out, his flagship split in half under a single ghost beam, the Eye. Image was broadcast to every ship and hope shattered with it. The coalition broke, once united, now screaming in fear. Thousands of ships scattered, fleeing into the rift, but the Ghost Fleet followed, silent, merciless. Their weapons never missing, their formation never breaking. One by one, the banners of 20 empires fell, whole armadas erased, their wreckage drifting into the endless storm. Within minutes, the greatest alliance in galactic history was nothing but silence, and still, the Ghost Fleet spoke no words. They did not claim the battlefield. They did not seize the wreckage. They only drifted in silence among the ruins. As if watching, as if warning. Far away, news of the massacre reached the core worlds. At first, the Council refused to believe it. But survivors soon limped back with broken hulls and broken minds. Their stories all the same. They move like shadows. They see everything. They cannot be stopped. The Chancellor slammed his staff and roared that the Empire would not bow. But his voice shook. His eyes betrayed him. And the chamber filled with whispers louder than his words. On border colonies, soldiers deserted their posts. On trade routes, merchants prayed when crossing empty space. Whole planets whispered the same name in fear. Humans. And for the first time, the galaxy began to understand. This was not a fleet of ghosts. This was a fleet of vengeance. The old scholar spoke quietly, as he looked upon the stars. "They are not conquering," he said. "They are reminding the galaxy of what it once chose to forget. And when memory returns, arrogance breaks. The enemy had broken, not just in battle, but in spirit. The coalition had been their greatest chance, and it was destroyed in silence. Now the galaxy trembled, not at what humanity had done, but at what humanity could still do. The ghost fleet drifted once more into the void, leaving behind only wreckage, leaving behind only fear. For they were not finished, not yet, and somewhere deep within the dark, a human voice whispered again across the comms, "This is only the beginning." The human return. For weeks after the slaughter at Vera's Rift, the galaxy lived in silence. The great powers no longer spoke of war. Merchants refused to travel. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Even the Empire itself grew quieter, as if the Liwa. Stars were holding their breath, but then without warning the silence broke. Every channel across the galaxy, from the richest core world to the poorest mining rock, flickered to life. At first there was only static. Then, a single voice. Deep, calm, and human. "We are not ghosts," the voice said. "We are not myths. We are humanity. Forgotten by your records. Erased from your history, but never gone. Across countless worlds, billions froze. Some dropped to their knees in fear. Others whispered in awe. Even the council chamber fell silent as the voice continued. For centuries we watched from the shadows. You erased us, you mocked us, you believed we were nothing. But we endured, we waited, and now we rise again." The hollow image shifted, and for the first time, the galaxy saw not just ships, but faces. A human admiral stood in full view, his uniform dark, his eyes sharp, scars marking his face. Behind him, the shadows of massive warships stretched like towers of steel. His voice carried weight heavier than any weapon. "We fight not to rule, but to protect. We fight not to conquer, but to remind. Earth is not gone. Humanity is not gone. And to those who threaten us, remember this. Your fleets burn because you forgot who we are." The broadcast cut off, but its echo remained. The words spread faster than any fleet. Whole worlds trembled, whole governments faltered, for the galaxy had laughed at Earth. But now Earth was laughing back. "High Chancellor." Vareth rose from his throne in anger. "This is arrogance," he spat. "They dare show their faces as if they are gods." But his voice cracked, for even he knew the balance of power was gone. In the streets of the Empire's capital, whispers grew into shouts. "Humans are real," they said. "Humans have returned." Some even cheered, for many under the Empire's rule longed for hope. And now they saw it in the faces of those who had defied the galaxy itself. Admiral Zyros called an emergency war meeting. His voice was iron. "If they are human, then they can be killed," he declared. "We must strike now before they grow stronger." But another admiral shook his head. "Stronger? They already destroyed the coalition. What strength do we have left?" The debate raged, but outside those walls the people had already chosen. The people no longer looked to the Empire for safety. They whispered of humanity instead. Far from the core, on the edges of forgotten systems, the ghost fleet gathered. Openly for the first time their cloaks dropped, their black hulls shining like night forged into steel. Their numbers stretched across the void. Dreadnought after dreadnought, carrier after carrier, titans of war lost to history but alive again. It was not only ships but colonies, human settlements long hidden in the dark, entire planets shielded by technology no alien could understand. Now they revealed themselves one by one. Lights glowing across dead stars, voices rising where silence once ruled. The galaxy had thought Earth was gone, but Earth had never been alone. Humanity had built in secret, grown in silence and waited. Now they revealed themselves not as survivors but as an empire reborn. The scholar who had warned the council stood at the balcony of his chamber, tears in his eyes. "They return not as shadows," he whispered. "But as truth," the Empire tried to answer, but every attempt failed. Fleets refused to fight, soldiers refused to march. Even the most loyal captains hesitated, for how could they fight a people who had already proven unstoppable? On one border world, an imperial garrison prepared for war when a human fleet arrived. The garrison's commander braced for death, but the human ships did not fire. Instead, a single message was sent. "We are not here for you, we are here to remind the galaxy that we are alive." And then, as suddenly as they came, they vanished into the dark. The galaxy was shaken. The enemy that could not be found. The ghosts that destroyed whole armadas now had a face, a name, and a promise: humanity. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy no longer feared the Empire most. It feared the return of Earth, the fall of arrogance. The council chamber had never felt so small. The golden walls that once shone with pride now seemed dim under the weight of fear. High Chancellor Vareth sat at the head, his scaled hands trembling as he gripped his staff. Around him, senators shouted, admirals argued, but their voices carried no strength. "The people whisper of humans," one senator cried. "They say the Empire cannot protect them. They say only the Ghost Fleet can." Another shouted back, "We must strike. We must show the galaxy we are still strong." But the words sounded hollow. Admiral Zyro stood tall, though his face was pale. "We have fought them before, we will fight them again," he declared. But everyone remembered the rift. Everyone remembered the coalition's fall. No one believed him. The hollow screens around the chamber flickered. For a moment all froze, expecting another human broadcast, but instead a fleet appeared. An Imperial fleet, burning, collapsing, screaming. The council gasped. The humans had struck again. This time it was not a border skirmish. It was the core itself. Vareth slammed his staff. "They mock us," he growled. "They dare to strike so deep." But his voice cracked. Fear bled through, and the council saw it. Then, as if answering him, the screens changed. The image of a human admiral filled the chamber. His uniform dark, his eyes sharp, his scars lit by the glow of war. Behind him stretched endless human warships, black blades of steel blotting out the stars. His voice carried across every system, every planet, every ship in the galaxy. "You believed your records could erase us," he said. "You believed your arrogance would silence our name. But history cannot be erased, not forever. We are humanity. We are the storm you forgot, and we are here to remind you." The chamber fell silent. Senators lowered their eyes. Admirals clenched their fists. No one dared speak because the truth was undeniable. The broadcast spread across the galaxy. On slave worlds, the oppressed cheered. On mining colonies, workers lifted their heads with hope. On war fronts, soldiers wept in silence. For the first time, someone had broken the Empire's pride. On the battlefield, the Empire tried one last, desperate strike. A fleet of their finest dreadnoughts armed with weapons never before seen. They faced the humans in open war, hoping to prove the Empire was still mighty, but the Ghost Fleet did not falter. They moved with silence. They struck with precision. The Imperial dreadnoughts burned one by one, and in less than an hour, the proud fleet of the Empire was gone. Nothing but wreckage floating in the dark. Admiral Zyros himself was lost. His flagship split in half by a single beam. The message was clear. The age of imperial arrogance was over. On the capital world, riots broke out. Citizens shouted the same word in the streets: humans, humans. Some in fear, some in hope. The council tried to silence them, but their voices grew louder. High Chancellor Vareth stared into the night sky from his palace balcony. His empire had stood for 1,000 years, unshaken, undefeated. Yet now, with every shadow, with every whisper, it crumbled, and he knew in his heart that nothing could stop it. The old scholar walked alone through the halls of the palace, his voice soft, his words heavy. "This was never about conquest," he whispered. "This was never about war. Humanity has returned not to rule, but to remind us all that arrogance falls when truth rises." In the far reaches of space, the Ghost Fleet drifted once more, watching, waiting, not claiming land, not demanding tribute. Their presence alone was enough. For now the galaxy remembered, and the galaxy trembled. The final lesson was carved into the stars themselves. A truth no record could erase. A truth that would echo through every world, every system, for all time. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never forget again.